face first, and then our model, and then our server. It's kind of 3 pieces, and that worked. It was a lot of work, but there's really no alternative. And certainly Hans was a huge help with that, because it was kind of miraculous how we left the world of Delphi. I don't even have Delphi installed on a machine anymore. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. So what is the state of your project now, Damian? Where are you with the migration? What part runs in which
So
environment?
everything works in MDriven now. The UI is still WinForms, but it's in Visual Studio. That was a difficult change to pull out of Delphi.net. But yeah, everything works. We've got an MDriven server hosted on our server here. You helped me set that up. And then we've got Turnkey, and we're just starting to play with Turnkey now. I mean, I've played with it on and off for the last year. We moved to MDriven server at the beginning of this year. So 2025 was MDriven server. 2024, the server side was still in Delphi. So now our objective is to start building some UI in web and start using it. It's challenging though, because our Windows interface is very dense. There's a lot to a given screen. The workflow is the type of user we have isn't very patient with, screen to screen to screen to screen. It doesn't currently lend itself well to that. So my intention is to just build some UI in web to give some access to that. We're starting with a picture upload system, because we haven't really hosted pictures. We've played with it in the past in the Delphi world, but going from a photograph on a camera or a phone into our database was too tricky or too painful to do, so we just never did it. And that's the part we're doing now, which will open that door into using web interface. And then some of our other stuff will slowly start to move over there. But moving the entirety of our UI into a full web-hosted system is daunting. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't even know if it can work, to be honest. I've got to learn a lot more about it. But the good news is we've left Delphi behind, and we're using Visual Studio. We're using netCore now. We just changed for our server and for Turnkey. So we've made a lot of progress, but there's still a lot of work through this single developer environment.
I was just thinking of, I think you can find that you can compact with just changing the styling. You can get the UI code to be more dense, but also I don't know if have you mentioned that in the group, or have you done more research into that, Hans? Because you were looking at basically a web browser rendering system that actually renders very similar to Windows Presentation Foundation, which would be an ability for us to run the designer in the web browser. I don't know if you have seen
I haven't said anything about that, but that's an interesting idea. It's a fairly new concept, I think, or at least I may have missed it. It's called Avalonia. And
go ahead, Hans.
So that's basically most of the community has gotten tired of Microsoft's maintenance of VPF. Yeah, all right. Show my screen anyway. It stopped here. Sorry. So Avalonia UI is basically a SAML variant of a UI presentation that actually runs in the web browser. So it's sort of a mix between a desktop application and bat client.
And I think that, so the way our users use our WinForms right now is with Windows Remote Desktop, and you can use that, remotely from anywhere. And if you've got a decent internet connection, it's very powerful. There's really no drawback. It's also secure. So the question, I'm kind of hoping there's a way to sort of short circuit this to just continue to use the WinForms layout and functionality, but use it in a browser, because there's a lot to it. I use a lot of control color to show the state of things, tooltips, I don't know, different things like that work really well. And we're in a production environment where time is really critical. And so if you've got to hop through 3 or 4 different screen changes to add an address or change some basic data, that becomes too painful too quickly. Whereas we've invested a lot in what we've done in WinForms, and generally speaking, it works very well. WinForms still have memory leaks, which is annoying. Outside of that, what we've got is pretty good. However, whenever I talk to anyone about our system and I mention Windows, they shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to address the main issue that the web UI often is takes a lot of room and makes one screen very sparse in information. That's just you can overcome that, and that's important to keep in mind. It's not very often shown in web UIs because it's daunting to new users, and most web UIs are geared toward seldom users, and then there should be only like 7 things on the screen, then they sort of zoom out. But as we are doing Office applications within the web UI, then there's that limitation isn't there. The Office worker would go crazy if he needs to switch screen to do a simple thing and to find a certain information. So it's definitely so that I can show you some of off camera. I can show you some of the dense web UIs we have on client side that's really overloads the browser with information and makes a seldom user back away, but makes the common user happy.
The other big problem with WinForms, at least the way Delphi used it with the data binding, is you're not working in a sandbox. You're working in the live data. And that's a really big problem. I think view models is probably the right answer to change that. What I did is I built a lot of transient classes that you pump the data into, use that class to present to the user and let them do their edits, and then you persist back to the persisted classes when you're done.
Yeah,
that works, but it's a lot of extra work because you're effectively building everything twice.
So a bit of semi-long running transactions without having actually a lock in the database or anything like that. It's I think for office work absolutely crucial. For seldom work, when you book your next flight, that's almost that's something that you don't want, because then you would have forgotten to save and you think you're on your way to the airport and you discover that you never saved. So these are 2 very different use cases, but for the office work, the ability to have a transaction, ongoing transaction that you at a later point save is very beneficial to getting work done. And I think you're spot on when you say that you used transient classes to reach that level of managing of the information. But basically that is what the view models do, that they allow for, or not so much the view models, but the context of a view model. The idea of that we have a context that you work in, and that you then can say discard all this or save all this, or that you can for that also do undo in steps and redo in steps.
Yeah, and back in the old days when it was all Eco 3, we would actually have cases where someone was editing data that another user started looking at it before it was completed.
Yeah.
And that really made a mess. I mean, even worse, the other user might see this open piece of data that's not complete and go, oh, that's junk, delete.
Yeah.
And that those kinds of frustrations were really tricky to get around, because Eco 3 was very much about working directly with the persisted data. And that I didn't know when I started using it what a huge weakness that was, but it's a big problem.
Yeah, and a lot of systems still do that, and I think that's the go-to operations when you see at entity framework applications, etc. They are pulling data to the screen, and the person edits something and then press commits, and everything is sort of whenever you change one field, it's often applied piece by piece.
I kind of think maybe that's part of the reason why WinForms has a bad reputation. I don't know that people could articulate it that way, but it doesn't lend itself well to this office type environment.
Yeah, but we did WinForms applications with Bold and later Eco and MDriven, and having the context transaction thing going there as well. So it's not necessarily tied to WinForms, even if it might be more common, because it was a trade of the time, so to speak. So
about today's agenda, have you, Hans and Lydia, synced when it comes to her showing something? Are you still on for that, Lydia?
So we haven't synced, but I'm all for it.
She said she needs 45 minutes for her presentation.
Well, let's start now.
No, I'm just scaring her. But Lydia, you're muted. How much do you need?
You're mute.
Probably just 5 to 7 minutes.
All right. You want them now or in a bit?
No, after your presentation.
Okay. Right. So my idea was that we should take a look at the new possibilities to incorporate the debugging functionalities within the runtime, because I find that really helps me a lot when dealing with operations of a system, to actually see what's going on. And yeah, how should I?
Have you started the recording?
Yes, I have. Good that you asked. As we're well aware, we can try this out with a local server pair like this. And Damian, I just want to follow up on the dense thing, because I guess what makes it dense is also the grid clumpiness, because you could argue that if it were zoomed out, if the style forced it to be small like this, there would be more room. But I guess the main thing to get a good UI that is not as static as the WinForm and allows for different form factors are really the placing containers. And those are really a major thing to get control over your screen. And we have done things recently to make it easier to convert something that is grid-based initially, like, yeah, I'm gonna show what I mean with grid-based. And that is grid-based like this, that all the controls are in fixed positions. And to turn that into something that is based on placing container. The trick was, or the challenge was that whenever you started to use placing container, everything got turned on its head right from the start. And that might scare you. So these helper functions to make sure that we see both the grid-based as it was and the new placing container as it is, it really helps in getting things done. So if I were to add several sub-columns to I can see only the structure of the placing container. So there's one big column that goes down, and then there are plenty or 3 small ones in it. And the idea is that I can either work right here to drop things, or I think I can work here as well to drop things inside. So there's tools that allows you to switch to placing container based to make things easier and more easy to make it fit on different types of screens. So why would this fit better on another type of screen? Let's make this a row and move these 2 things into the row. Then and yeah, this integer into the row as well. Then I can see that this will fit better even on the web. So there is less space taken up. And if I want this to work with different form factors, I would do things like having the row being both wrap and also have it to grow, or rather to align the content within the row to or rather justify with space between, because then if I save that, one would get one kind of UI on larger screen, and whenever the screen is tight, a better kind of UI. So there's plenty of ways to compact the UI, I think, even if you're on the web. But that was not the point to discuss. I said that using the debugger helps me in operations. And to get the debugger functionality that's sort of incorporated in newer versions of Turnkey, but to actually awaken it, we need a piece of model pattern. So I'm gonna head over to the model and over here go to the assets tab and make sure that I have the latest things from GitHub, where we keep all our model patterns. And downloads the repository, and after that I'm sure to find the latest things in this MDriven mergeable, and here I'm supposed to look for something called this one, SysDynamic View and SysDebugger. If I were to merge that in just by pressing this button, I get some things added to my model. This diagram, for example, a new class called SysDebugger, and this one will be persistent false, meaning transient. And all of these things are transient, and that's by design, and it's a good thing to keep them as transient, because you don't really want to persist them. You don't want database entries for the debugger or the temporary object references that the debugger has, or any temporary dynamic views that the debugger sort of creates for you. So just saving that, it has a few predefined functions that has support back in the MDriven servers. So what we can do is to find the debugger view in the running application after this, and that didn't work. Let's see if I need to the debugger view is awakened by the admin sysdebugger, and that action is creating a debugger class. So if this didn't work, I would assume that I should restart my core server. Yeah, maybe there was okay, maybe there are some errors here, so I will go back, see that I'm error free here. Okay, let's see why this is acting up then. I can see on my this doesn't seem to want to start, but why wouldn't it want to start? Okay, now it did start, so I'm gonna go to the system debugger. Yes, and the system debugger is just a view model as any other view model. So in fact, you can change the system debugger to your liking. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I did to make it even better. But here you can do things like enter expressions that are valid in your model, thing all instances, and evaluate that. At least I thought I could.
Isn't your capitalization wrong, and don't you have to have parentheses after all instances?
No. Yeah, okay, now I see this is says null here, and that's something that we should be wary of, because it really should have a new object reference in order to be rooted in one of these transient classes, and it needs that to actually have any function. So thing all instances, and it didn't find anything, but that might be because I don't have any. So I'm going to create a few things.
At least it identified the correct result type, so it did something.
Exactly. You saw that. That was also what I saw. And I'm going to do it again. And now I see that I get the identity of these objects and the default presentation of those objects. I also got this, as Daniel said, the class reference. The result type was collection of thing. And then if we know it's a thing, may we create a seeker for things, like the auto form that we do for seekers. But those auto forms are sort of something that are part of the model, but that's what this new thing is for, to be able to create views on the fly that aren't really part of the model, but still uses model information, like the auto forms. So that means that I can, if I press Control when doing this, I get a new tab. I get the generated seeker where I can search for thing. So I can get this in runtime for any class in my model. And that really helps me to loop around to find things. And this button here does basically the same. It creates one of these sysdynamic views, but it sets the root to show as the rows, the identity from the row, and then ask Turnkey to generate an auto form for this. So that way I can get up all the fields, the attributes, and I can follow to multi-links of this. So I can go to detail of this and add a new detail if that is something that I would like. And this was for the AAA one. So let's see, if I go to views and go to the AAA, I can see that there are details actually created for me. And if these were saved and I go to details, I can see that that's the data I have there. So it's really hooking into the model and the session of the user. And that means, since it's the session of the user, I can also inspect data that isn't really saved yet. So if I went back here and in the auto form changed this one, that would also change here, which is in the session. This is the design view for this model and the thing object. And this is the generated dynamic view that doesn't really exist in the model, but we sort of summoned it by the debugger. And so that really helps me if I'm gonna debug something in this view and want to see why things change the way they do. Good. And one thing that I think is especially cool is that if we have like state machines and things on our objects or our classes, let's add a state machine for thing that has a couple of let's make it really complex. Yeah, you can go from state 1 to state 2 and from state 2 to state 3 and then back again. And let's say that we're gonna call these go to step 2 like a trigger, and this one is gonna be called go to step 3, and we will no doubt call this one go to step 1. Having done that, since the system restart, the transient thing will die, and that's expected. So we need to reopen the debugger between sessions. But I'm also going to create a new thing, because when you add a state machine after the fact, all your existing objects are missing the state, and they are sort of invalid. So we can fix that. But this is a new thing. So now we have a new thing, and that knows about the state machine and would be correctly initiated. So if I go to the debugger and do thing all instances, and I can see that this one has state 1, and I open the auto form. I also have the state button that takes me to yet another page. So this is, I guess, what you talk about, Damian, to jump around pages, but that's the expected way when we have the auto forms. That's why no one can use the auto forms as a means of production, but they are really good to see the information because they map the tables really well. But of course, you can't send a user to use auto forms because then it's getting really, really clunky all of a sudden. But now you can execute the triggers on this state machine on this object, which is this object, and that would then move it to step number 2, which enables step number 3. And so if you have complex business rules where you really need to understand why things aren't acting up, the auto forms are a really good tool. And before, you had to do it in a separate session do the debugger from within the MDrivenDesigner or Visual Studio, and that wasn't really in situ. It wasn't in the session where you work, and this and that poses all kinds of problems because the errors are always in production, right? And production is not the same version as you are working with today because you're ahead of production. And if someone asks you something on why something is like it is in production, you want to be able to directly just access these things to see for yourself what is the data and how is the data following the rules that we have set up, and can I understand. It might not be a bug, it might just be a complex issue that you need to have this done before you can go here. So this is, I think, is really, really good. And what I said that I wanted to show you how to enhance this a little bit more even is that in my projects I've added yet another action to show the auto form directly from any object within any view. So that would enable me to skip the need to try to look up this thing within the debugger as I did when doing all instances, etc. And how would I go about that? Well, basically I would just find my superclass, which is in this case on this package sys superclass. Oops, no, I shouldn't change it. I should be sys superclass. And in the sys superclass, where's that? Packages, sys superclass. I add a class action which I call auto form, and that one should bring up the sys debugger with the yes, it needs to yeah, maybe I shouldn't show this fully because we want to see Lydia's things as well. But basically what I do is, I'm just going to explain it now and then I can do this in another video, is to make a dynamic, bring up the sysdebugger and have in this view, have a periodic action that looks if there's a root object coming in assigned to a certain variable. If it is, it should create a dynamic view and set that root object and have that spin up and navigate to that view, because then the auto form is available straight from anywhere in the application by just right clicking any grid, or by if I'm in a form, just it will pop up on the left side or on the left side menu if there's a menu here. And then I'm really short circuit the application back to the data, and I can access all the data. Just a quick note about the sysdebugger, because of course now I do like this thing all instances, and I don't want to do that if I have like a million things in the database, because then everything will choke. Luckily I don't, but if I did, I can just as well press evaluate OCL PS, which translates it to SQL, so, and then it will be limited to only this many of objects, so I can limit it to 100 objects. And another good thing that I've added just recently is that this automatically switches between evaluate objects in PS and evaluate value. So I can go like this and press this one and get the result of 5, because there are 5 things in the database. So this, but then of course there's no way to open that out form, because that's just a 5 and there's no identity here. So there's plenty of things that becomes available. Lars, you have a question, I believe.
Yes, and I was just about to ask what you showed here, but I also had another, because now it seems that's really better than the built-in debugger also, that you don't need to, like in the beforehand, tell if it's OCL or OCL PS, basically, right?
No, it's just
kind of
different
adapts.
buttons. So
Yeah.
if
Makes it easy.
yeah, and if there's something really wrong, so this won't even compute, it will state so down here, and there's no real danger in doing anything wrong.
But my question was slightly different that I had written down, and that is there any like safety net so I don't do something all instances and the whole server locks up? Because that can easily, if you have too many objects, it kind of just, you know, throws the whole thing down. And I know we have statistics, and you could do something like it. Would there be like a warning or something? It's like, are you sure this table has very many things in it?
Today there's actually no safeguarding against that, other than this will also limit on the shown objects. So, but this will of course fetch all the locators, so the identities will be fetched, and if there are like millions and millions, it will still be a problem. So but there's not that kind of warning and limitation today, sorry. So it's a
no, I was just thinking of the statistics feature that we have, and it might be that you could have a, I don't know if that's the thing here about things, but that it actually first, the same way we do sometimes to count how many things are in the whole table, it could count first by running an OCLPS. And if that comes back with 10,000 or 50,000, it should ask you, it's like, are you sure? There are 58,600 objects here.
Yeah. So in order to sort of have a query plan to have numbers on what it will
Yeah.
entail.
I
Because it's
can
not,
just imagine, otherwise someone will come along that don't know and then press
Yeah.
execute, and then I get a call from Anna in this case. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Or what the hell is this other person
Yeah.
doing? Why did you let him do that
yeah,
in production? Are you nuts?
Well, thing all instances dot delete evaluate action.
yeah.
Yeah, that one too.
Yes. So correct. So you can easily do this. And then all these objects are actually gone. So
Luckily, we have cancel.
yeah.
But yes, I was just thinking a few of those safeguards would be really
and not,
nice.
yeah. So what you can do also is self thing equals this, and then you can do self dot sums 3. So that wasn't an answer to your question, but at least it is a cool feature that you can use variables and pick identities from, can scrape the web to see. So I guess I can see my debugger if I were to do like this. Oh, I haven't tried this one. The debugger, sys debugger equals.
This opens up some ability also to just use it on the fly. Charles just did an we're transitioning our support system from UTrack to ClickUp, and so the way they did that was to export all the data into JSON, and then there's a feature to go from JSON to model just by looking at the JSON. So he spun up the model. I haven't seen this myself. He's here, but I'm just giving a summary. So he imported everything into this, and then he used the REST API to push that into ClickUp. And apparently it was quite a smooth operation.
Yeah,
so I
good.
guess this would even more make it possible to quickly create views and view models and do transitions and use this as a live editing tool.
Yeah, cool. Yes. So I really think this is a very potent tool. So you should definitely always make sure that if you have this available, it will be available as a global action of some sort. Make sure that you set an access group on it. And if you don't have access groups, create one. It's as easy as this. Protect debugger. And when should it be enabled? When should it be visible even? And of course, the go-to expression has to do with if we're logged in or not. Right, maybe this is an issue with two model dialogues being open on top of each other. So, and sys singleton. OCL singleton. So that's the singleton class, and this is the operator to get the one instance, and then there's a current user, and that shouldn't be empty. Or maybe even if I select from that and check the user should be is admin. And This shouldn't be empty. Yeah, the current user is only one, so I can shortcut this. Don't have to select on it. I just check if it's admin. Don't know why I did that. And then if it should be visible, it's basically the same. And if I should enable the edit controls within the view that shows up, basically the same. So that's an important aspect to assign access groups to potent actions, so that especially when you're on the internet, anyone can stumble upon your thing. Good. Maybe Lydia is ready for some serious presentation.
Thanks, Anne. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead and play a video, and then we can take it from there. But essentially, today I believe I could start by saying we are excited that MDrivenTurnkey and server installation can run on Mac OS, of course, enabled by Docker, but I also tested it on Mac OS native, and MDrivenTurnkey, MDrivenServer is fully functional. We'll be sharing all these details, of course, via our YouTube channel and other social pages. But for today, we're going to see how the setup for MDrivenTurnkey, MDrivenServer runs. It's really literally almost as simple as download, extract, and run. So
Play the video. I want to see it.
I'm excited. Hopefully we can go ahead and test it once we are done. But yeah, let me just share my screen, and then you guys can let me know if you can see this. Are we able to see that?
Yes.
VLC media player is on screen.
Awesome. Okay, so I wanted to start by sharing how my Docker desktop looks like. You can see from this that it had no images, no containers, nothing. I tried to start from a clean slate so that we can all follow along and not look at other images going through and wondering what that is. So currently, I can say that for now, all installation files, including the MDrivenServer, Turnkey, and Docker files, are available only through our internal repositories. The idea is for us to later make them accessible on our website or wiki and blog, but this release that I'm using currently is internal only. I simply downloaded the MDriven Ubuntu.zip file, extracted it, and what you're looking at right now is the extracted folder. So I was just showing you the extracted folder and the key ingredients for this setup, which is that folder and this MDrivenDesigner executable.
For why?
So if you look up here, you will see there's a Docker compose build and the no cache option. It's what I ran first because I had made a few tweaks to my MDrivenServer and MDrivenTurnkey Docker files, and I had really just changed the ports from the defaults to what you will be seeing, which is 5055 and 5025. So I had to run the Docker compose build and no cache to just reload and ensure that I have the latest version of my Docker files in whatever images I'm setting up. And then simply run docker compose up -d right down here. And you should see this video is not fastened up or anything, but it did take even 2 seconds or so, and it was done. So then I just went back to the page that had, to my Docker desktop terminal, just to look at what had happened after I ran those 2 commands. And that's what we have. We can clearly see we have MDrivenServer running, MDrivenTurnkey running via the specified port, and then went ahead to test via the web to confirm. Now, at this point, I'm hoping we all know what happens here, but at this point, what I needed now was to call in the big guns, which is the MDrivenDesigner. So while MDrivenServer was starting great and MDrivenTurnkey was starting great as well, I now had to test by uploading a model so that I can confirm if the MDrivenTurnkey is actually fully functional as I claimed it was. So what you're looking at right now is me opening the wine terminal, which I had already installed. I think I showed that a while back in a previous video. Just navigating to the right folder and then running the wine command, which is wine plus the file, the executable file that I had earlier on shown you. The rest of it is really what we went through the first time, where it will open the MDrivenDesigner setup works, and you go through them like how you normally would in Windows. But, well, there we go. I already had one running, so I forgot to purge some of them. But like I mentioned, this is in real, like it's not like forwarded or anything like that. So it's now, I can comfortably say we should be able to run MDrivenDesigner and Turnkey on Mac OS or both native and Docker in under 10 minutes or 5. This is a stretch, but this video itself is about 5 minutes, but it's possible for you to do it after you've downloaded everything, to do it in under 5 minutes. But yeah, so here we can see the Turnkey started great because we see the port and port highlighted, and it works great. But I still went back to show the entire process and how swift it is even on Mac, that I could upload and log into my MDrivenServer and Turnkey using the default details and so on and so forth. And yeah, pretty much download, extract, and run, I would say.
Perfect.
The rest of
Really
it is
nice.
really stuff I already know, unless we have any questions. The idea behind it is that I can say that we are, of course, we are testing different Docker images. For example, I think Alpine, Oracle Linux, Linux Mint, among others, and Mac OS is also a given. We'll keep updating our internal wiki to ensure that we document everything that we are doing as we move forward. But overall, I feel and think this is a solid step forward for us. And we are excited to just share it with you guys.
Wonderful.
I can stop the download, the video now. And if there's any questions or any reactions, then they're welcome.
Yeah, very good job.
And yes, thank you, super. And we will add on to, you could say, or help Lydia's work with getting into more platforms with what we think will be that you will be able to pick, like I want Linux, I want Ubuntu, I want this database, and then you will see what to download. So there will be an easy way to pick what you want to run on, and then you'll see the available downloads and instructions, because we realize it becomes a lot of different options, but they're also needed. So there will be a mix of operating system and cloud providers that you can pick from. To say it's like, yes, I want to have, I want cloud and Linux, and then you'll say, okay, you can be on AWS. All right, how do I do that? And then there will be a link to the wiki, and you can read there, and here are the downloads. So we're trying to integrate this into the main site, because we think even for you that has been around for a long time, could really benefit from spinning up simpler models really quick, like the one Charles did for migrating. That could be one option, or you just want to quickly get a user interface on an existing database. You could quickly do that. So that's our goal, both to make this ad hoc much more available, that it's easier to get it running in the cloud. But also, if you're new to our products, of course, you should have a very quick way to actually run your idea in the cloud with the features and for a low cost. You don't want to pay Microsoft $300 a month just to run a simple app. So there needs to be a cheap, quick ways to run it. So you could say we will be something like Airtable on steroids. Because that's what you can do with Airtable, right? You can try something really quickly, but you really quickly also run into the things you can't express in only Airtable. It gets really complicated, and that's what we want to replace. Yeah.
Perfect.
Super nice, Lydia. So I think my hope is that Lydia will be a recurring feature in these meetings, that she will show the evolution of more and more deployment options going forward.
All right, super. We used up the time, so thank you very much for showing up this October, and hope to see you in November.